Hello again. It's Wednesday evening, or actually early Thursday, just a little bit after midnight. And I want to talk to you in this video about the second project that we're going to be doing as a group, which involves studying a business that's close to Brooklyn College in this Flatbush Junction area. And this whole area has been designated a business improvement district. And what that means is that the city, the Chamber of Commerce, various institutions have identified that it's a neighborhood that needs improvement or is in need of improvement, so that businesses are perhaps not really representing themselves in the best way they can. The neighborhood doesn't really look as appealing as it might. It's losing business because people are shopping elsewhere. And so it's been designated an area that the city wants to invest in and revitalize. And as part of that program, we have a person who is an executive director. She's actually an interim executive director because she doesn't have a permanent position, and it's going to be decided in a few months. Will she continue? Will somebody else come in the position? But Patty Hoff, who is in Boylan on the first floor, is in the office of what's called the BID office, the Business Improvement District, and it's a collaboration with Brooklyn College to come up with some solutions to help these generally small business owners, but not always. I mean, we have Burger King, we have McDonald's, right, in the neighborhood as well. It's a program designated to help the business owners come up with ideas. So the dean, the new dean, Willie Hopkins of the business school, approached me and thought that perhaps I might have some ideas about how the business school can be connected with the BID project. So I gave a first talk to some of these business owners, and you'll see how excited they were to come to my lecture. I made a new tab called, I think, Brooklyn Business, that you'll find on Blackboard, and I included the PowerPoint that I did of the first presentation, which was about optimizing your business through improving the aesthetics of the store design and also customer service. So only a couple of business owners came. But anyway, and you'll see pictures, not in that PowerPoint, but what you'll see is a proposal for a couple of other talks that I thought we could have in collaboration with these two institutions, the BID and also the business school. And so since we're doing this project in class, I talked a little bit about the class project. Well, what I was going to say before about how exciting it was, you can see in the proposal that I made for the 3 talks that I also posted on Blackboard, you'll see some pictures of the business owners sitting at like a kind of conference table and me making the presentation. But actually something very, very funny happened at this talk it was really unbelievable, but very funny. Perhaps not so funny for the person of interest. But what happened was this: one, strangely, people were invited in the community, business owners, and it just so happened that a police officer, I guess when the former director of the BID project, who's no longer here, Lisa Solomon, she probably was handing out flyers, and so a police officer got one of these flyers and just wandered in. So he's not in the picture, but he was sitting at the table as well, this police officer. And so what happened is I'm showing my PowerPoint and I'm talking about, giving examples. In fact, you'll see, it'll be interesting for you because you'll see some pictures of luxury stores. And then I kind of put, like Louis Vuitton on the Champs-Élysées in France, which is a very, the top, flagship of the brand, the most elaborate store you can imagine. And then I show a store on, on Flatbush Avenue, where all the stuff is on the floor in boxes and it's really messy. Now, of course, I explained I'm not trying to say that it's a different situation than on the Champs-Élysées in Paris. But what I was trying to say is that, okay, we can improve it somewhat. It doesn't mean it has to be, all kind of shiny gold and crystal. No, but at least it could be a little bit, better. Then customers can be received in a way that's at least a little more dignified, maybe, than it is right now. I mean, that opens up a lot of questions, and somebody in the audience raised the question about what do people really want? And that's important too. We can't impose ideas of what we might think people should have, or how the shopping experience should be. We have to really think about what people in the community want. That's very important, and he's right. But what happened that was very funny is this. So I'm presenting it, and I'm showing, and I'm saying that, you have to, if you treat people like they're criminals, because there is one jewelry store, you'll see a picture of it, and I don't want to criticize the owners too much, because perhaps they feel that they are located in a very dangerous area, and they have to have bulletproof glass, and they cannot speak face to face with their clientele. Though I asked the police officer that very question, is it more dangerous here than it is, let's say, in Manhattan having a store? And he said no, in fact, in terms of the rate of crime, it's not. So, okay, but of course maybe the business owners feel that, or have had experiences. I'm not trying to judge them. But I was saying that if you treat people like that, or when you have a bulletproof glass, and when you have to buzz people in to come into your store, you're giving a certain message to your customer. You're treating your customer in a way in which he or she may feel like potentially you think that he or she is dangerous. So I show this picture, and the police officer, then I go on to the next screen, and I say, like, maybe it's an open-ended question, but how can this experience be made more friendly for the customer coming into that jewelry store? And so then I turned the frame, and the police officer said, "Professor, can you go back to the former picture that you just showed?" So I went back, and he said, goes and he looks very closely at the screen, and he said, "I think that picture of the man coming out of a store is a known criminal in the area that we've been looking for, who's been stealing jewelry and going in and selling the stolen jewelry." So it was actually a little bit humorous, because um, here I was saying you shouldn't treat people like criminals, and perhaps he seemed like, to the police officer, like he could be a criminal. So anyway, that was what happened. But okay, so they were very excited. The dean of the business school, and also the director, or the executive director of the BID project, when they heard about the idea that students will be studying. And I know you haven't started studying yet, so if you haven't seen this yet, because I sent an email, posted it on announcements, and I also posted this proposed session of talks up on Blackboard, so some of you may have seen it. One of the proposals involves you, students, presenting your findings. And don't be too intimidated, because I know you haven't started working yet, you haven't selected a business yet, but I thought it was a good opportunity, because they wanted it. They said, "Oh, that would be great. The business owners it would be really interesting to have students who studied a business present what they think the business could do to improve itself, to market itself better. Particularly, the businesses are all interested. How can they get Brooklyn College students to know about their business, or what kinds of things do Brooklyn College students want that perhaps they'd like to learn about from them? How can they change? How can they adapt?" So I think it's a wonderful opportunity, and I think you should enjoy it. You should have fun with this project. It's not meant to be something scary or something unpleasant. So I think you should set it up in a way in which it's going to be enjoyable to you. It doesn't have to be unpleasant at all, because what you can do, think about the block right near Brooklyn College. We have Shakespeare Books on the corner, we have the Starbucks, we have a little dry cleaning store in Taylor called Bobo. The last lady, as I mentioned, who was the executive director, Lisa Solomon, tried to go into that store because she's trying to give money to these business owners. In fact, I think up to $7,000. There's a budget that she can give them, and she wants to give them money to improve the storefront, first of all, to create a better environment. And so she was going into Bobo, and she was trying to talk to this lady, asking her, trying to explain about the bid. And the woman didn't speak English very well, and was a little bit nervous, and didn't know what she wanted, and just said to her, "I'm sorry, the boss is not in today." So, "When will the boss be in? Can I come and meet him?" "Okay, he's in tomorrow." So she found out, interestingly, that the boss was also her husband. But the husband said right away, "We're not interested. We don't know." They didn't really understand, or they were not sure about. And of course, imagine, people might be nervous. They might be thinking, oh, this is connected to the IRS or this is some type of surveillance. So they could be nervous about it, and rightly so. That the poor guy who was coming out of the jewelry store might have ended up having been arrested as a result of this presentation I was doing. But if he stole jewelry from people, I guess we can say it's a good thing that that happened. But anyway, we don't know. Maybe it was a mistake, and nothing ever came of it. I don't know. So what we're going to be doing. Imagine this business. They're not interested. They don't understand the situation. She didn't know what ethnicity, what language the couple did speak. She couldn't determine. She just said they were Asian. They could be Chinese. They could. She didn't know. So that's the question. I never have been in the business. I have no idea either. But that would be an interesting business to study. And it doesn't mean that you have to have the cooperation. It doesn't mean that you have to in any way be working closely with that couple. But what you could do is you could look at the storefront, you could observe it, you could look at what kind of advertising, what kind of signage, what kind of aesthetic, what type of ambiance does that store present. Are people from Brooklyn College, professors or faculty, administrators, students, are people who live in the dorms? Is anyone likely to use their services? Are they advertising to the Brooklyn College community? Some of these things can be determined without at all going into the store, visiting the store, doing much at all. I mean, of course, ideally, you want to do some of that, right? You want to be, um, you want to maybe go in and take a look around and have some interaction if that's part of your study. But you can completely look at how the business is marketing itself to the Brooklyn College community or not. That doesn't require being there. I was speaking to someone who came to visit in the office about Shakespeare books, right? Obviously you can call up and you can ask them, are you marketing? Are you doing anything? I'm a marketing student. I'd like to know, is there anything that you're doing to market the business to Brooklyn College students? And they'll tell you in 5 minutes. You'll get some information. So that might be a possible study. Look at all the places that are around, that are close by. This jewelry store that you'll see when you look at my PowerPoint that has the bulletproof glass. Well, how do they treat, that's an interesting study. How do they treat different types of clientele? Or who is their client? Um, besides maybe potential criminals. But who is their clientele and how do they treat it? If a young female student goes in, if someone who's middle-aged goes in, maybe one of your parents or someone else goes in, are they going to be treated differently? Are they is there, what is the experience of shopping in that environment like when you can't really, do they let you touch? I guess not. I guess if you're behind a glass, you never can really touch the jewelry. So are you supposed to just put money through a small, how do customers interact? Are there other jewelry stores that do it differently? Or is this the only choice for people who live in this area to shop in this particular store? So that could be a fascinating study. And obviously, you don't have to enlist the cooperation of the owners, or you might. It depends. Well, something to talk about. So think about what business you'd like to look at. Start to think, are you interested in restaurants? There are some businesses that have already volunteered. So those businesses want to be studied. So that's a good thing. There's two options. You can take a business that's on the list, and you'll see those businesses listed under that tab on Blackboard. They've already agreed. They want people. The Flatbush Copy Center, right, which is right near the train, entrance to the train station. Two brothers, I think, that own it. Family-run business that's been around for a long time. They are desperate to have advice, to have students who can take an interest in their business and give them some advice and work with them. So I think it's really a rare opportunity to learn something and to really put marketing into practice. And don't feel embarrassed or don't feel like I don't know anything. How can I, here are these business owners. They've been in business for 25 years, these brothers. I don't know anything. In fact, it's just the reverse. They said that they don't know anything, in a sense, because they aren't sure what Brooklyn College or they said it's even impossible to get on campus. They tried to do some event and they had all these flyers printed up, and then the security guard wouldn't let them on campus because they didn't have identification. As we know, 90% of the time the security guard is sleeping or isn't paying attention, and you can walk by freely. But the day that they decided to go, they were not allowed in, and so they said everything was printed out. They couldn't get access. They couldn't get on the campus for whatever reason. So they said, like, we want to know, what can we do to be connected to Brooklyn College? And we don't know who to approach. We don't know how things work. So this is something that you as a student, first of all, you know how other students think. You know the kinds of needs that students have. Perhaps you have an allotment of free copies that you can make at the student center. So therefore, people rarely, if ever, need to go to these copy places. So if that's the reality, that's something you can communicate to them. They don't know. Maybe you don't need. Maybe people don't really print stuff out, or maybe there isn't a need. For courses like this, everything is done electronically. So maybe their services, at least for printing stuff, is not really something that the Brooklyn College student is in need of. Maybe people, have printers at home. Whatever it might be, that's some information that they would like to have and get. And I think it's a great opportunity because later on, when you apply for a job, when you actually write your resume, it's something that you can incorporate. It's something that you could write about in a cover letter when you're applying for a position, if you were applying for a position in marketing. Not only did I take a class in marketing, but I became interested with my group members in the particular business we were studying. We were invited, and now I'm going to tell you something. If you were not scared already, you might be a little scared, but it's something good. It's something positive. In the cover letter, we'll finish what I was saying. You could say that not only did I work on this project, which was very interesting and done throughout the semester, but I was invited to a special reception on Wednesday, May 23rd at 8:30 a.m., in which I represented the group, and I presented the results of our findings to the community, to the Brooklyn College businesses, the businesses surrounding Brooklyn College, to the dean of the business school, to people who were invited to this reception, this breakfast reception, and the business owners whom I studied were there as well. And we had a conversation, feedback. They put into practice 3 of our recommendations, and their business has increased by 20%, whatever happens, the best scenario. So this is something really important that you could potentially do. And I don't want you to be scared, because I want to explain to you that these are business owners, because we're talking about what kinds of events should we have for them to try to get them to improve their businesses. We were thinking about something about social media marketing for small business owners. But these are businesses that Lisa Solomon told me this, and the new director as well. Some people in these businesses don't even know how to turn on a computer, let alone, Facebook or create a website. So these are people who, oftentimes small business owners, who are not really, like she said, she told me when she communicates with the business owner, she can't use email because most of them don't have an email account. You have to actually go there in person and talk to people, or write something down on a piece of paper. And for example, there is a person, I forget her first name, but her last name is Sennick, and she has a real estate office. She wants students who are interested in studying her office to come up with some ideas. She has some ideas in mind. I think, from what I understood, she says she barely knows how to use a computer, so I don't think any of her listings are, being put online. Websites like Craigslist, almost all brokers, I talked to some people in the real estate field, are putting their advertisements on Craigslist now. There's all type, everything is done electronically, and I don't think she's doing any of that. She has an idea about putting a screen in the window where people can come in and come by the store at any time and see pictures and information about listings on that screen, but she doesn't know how to do that. So we're not talking about things that are, creating an app or doing something that requires incredible, technological, sophistication. Just like, how do I communicate? The person who owns Jillian's Salon said she would like to be able to communicate by email to customers to keep in touch with people, and she hasn't really had time to figure out how to do that. So these are things that are not too difficult for most students who have knowledge of email, and perhaps some people have knowledge in the class about creating a website. It's not impossible to do. And there's lots of information. There's videos on YouTube about how to create a website for people who don't know how to do it. To any of us who can do it, it's not, again, it's not something too difficult. And so a lot of these businesses are doing zero marketing. They have no marketing. All they are doing is opening up at 9 or 10 o'clock, and people are walking by and coming in, and whoever comes in comes in. They haven't done anything. And so it's an opportunity where you can actually make a difference, and you have knowledge that they don't have, that they would like to have. And in fact, another reason I think it's interesting is because it can lead to a lot of internships and maybe paid situations as well. Because when I spoke to the brothers at Flatbush Copy, when I talked to the executive director about the person who has the real estate office, she said, I think that they would be definitely willing to pay if it looked like somebody could do something that would help them market themselves better. So I think it could lead to paid employment situations, internships. She herself, Miss the executive director of the center, I've now forgot her name, Patty Hoff. I'm sorry, I was thinking of Lisa Solomon, the last person. So Patty Hoff wants to have interns working in her office. So again, an opportunity. I don't know if it's paid. She didn't know the budget. She's just getting herself familiarized with the situation. But sometimes if you start something, even if it's not paid and it takes a couple of hours a week, it's a good opportunity. It's a way to get to know people. It's a way to connect to people. So I think this is a very positive project. And you don't have to do it in terms of presenting at this event on May 23rd. Not at all. One